I'm reviewing The Last Kingdom, a TV series that I watched on Netflix, and I'm looking at the film, from my perspective, and making reactions to the things that I picked up on the film. And one of the things that I want to talk about, that I'm going to talk about now, is the power of unity. Is the power of a group of people finding a common ground to unite themselves on and stand together in a fight against a common enemy. I will talk about the film first. In the film, the Danes were fighting against English people who were like Christians. It wasn't just about religion, let's be honest. It wasn't only about religion, but the thing that is different, one of the difference that they do have really was that the English people were Christians and the Danes believed in the gods, right? And they were killing themselves for resources and taking lands and using people as slaves and taking silver and essentially empowering themselves, being having all this power because they've conquered these people and they've taken over these people. And you hear things like that all over the country. So people, they are feared, so they have this power. And when English people are not fighting Danes, or Danes are not fighting English people, they fight among themselves. These Danes, they are led by all these different people. Like everyone has his own army, the people that follow him, and they go around, invading places and taking things. And this leader has his own army, and all of them are Danes. And then when they have a big person, to tackle, sometimes they manage to come together as Danes, as one. This leader comes together, joins forces with the other person and his army, and now there are a large number of them, and all these powerful people are now, the two of them are now working together against these English people, right? And because of that, the English people are scared because, oh my God, I'm not just dealing with this one person or that one person. They have joined forces together, and so these English people, they have to call on their allies, which are English people too, but they're their own separate people with their own separate armies, and they join forces together. And I want to first talk about the fights they have among themselves, like English people. I'm going to use King Alfred, for instance. He wanted to unite the whole of English land under one country, under one king, under one Christian God. And he was going to be that king that did it, because Danes were killing these people, were killing his people, overtaking people kingdom by kingdom. So they invade this particular kingdom because it's just the people in that kingdom that they have to deal with, and every other person in their own English kingdom is not bothered because it's not affecting their lives. And then when the Danes are done dealing with these people, they invade the next people, and eventually was only the kingdom of Wessex that had not been invaded by Danes. And King Alfred, his brother had died and he became king anyway. So now it was a time for him to face the Danes. The Danes were coming to invade the last kingdom, which was Wexes. And what he did was, because the Dane had come to his kingdom and succeeded, they took over the kingdom. He ran away with his family and went into hiding. And his idea was to call on all these other kingdoms that the Danes had um, destroyed, that had succeeded in destroying, to call on all of them so that they can bring their armies and come together as one to fight the Danes. That was their only chance. And he called on them. He sent out messengers, and they showed up, and they joined him in that war, and they won the war. And he wanted for that to be like a new beginning of like all these people uniting under him. And for a while, because the Danes had been defeated in that moment, for a while they lived peacefully, and he was just king in his own kingdom. And a lot of other people were like gods in other different kingdoms. So he married his daughter to one guy like that, and the guy is the lord in his own like kingdom, a lord. And the guy was ambitious, so he wanted to be called king. He wanted to be king of Marcia, right? So but he couldn't because of Alfred wants to be like seen as the one king of all these other kingdoms. So he said once Alfred dies, he's going to pronounce himself king, and he will be seen as a king of Marcia. And so when Alfred died, he started calling himself a king, and he was called the king, right? And so there was all these wars, all this inside fighting amongst all these people. There was also this kingdom, they were wearing red in the film, that when Alfred's daughter wanted, when Marcia was being attacked by the Danes, and Edward didn't want to join forces with her sister, and the Danes were succeeding in destroying her kingdom, and her husband, the one that pronounced himself king, was not around. And their mom, Alfred's wife, contacted those people to come and help her daughter, Alfred's daughter, in the war she was fighting as Queen of Marcia. And they came and said, you have to pay us. If you do not pay, we are not going to be joining you. We don't have this problem, we are fine. Danes are not our problem. They have not troubled us, and we have an army. We are not afraid of the Danes. So unless you are going to pay, that's your problem. And so they offered them money, and they joined forces, and they won against the Danes, right? And eventually the Danes invaded those people that said it wasn't their problem, and they failed. The Danes took over their kingdom. I'm thinking, if those people hadn't said Danes were not their problems and wouldn't assist the people that were suffering at that time, maybe when Danes started invading their own kingdom, they could have they could have made alliances with all these other kingdoms, and they could have called on them to assist. Anyway, Danes themselves, they kill each other, they kill one another. A cousin killed his cousin because he wanted to lead like the combination of all these different people, of all the Danes together, and they chose Uhtred's, what will I call? Let me just say his brother. From when he was adopted, Ragnarsson's son. I know his name. Why am I forgetting his name? Anyway, Rhaegar. Anyway, so his cousin that he had taken into his home and taken care of as his cousin, planned for him to be murdered so that he could be the leader of these Danes coming together. And they were supposed to be coming together to go and fight, to go and invade Alfred's kingdom of Wessex. I think Alfred was still alive then. but he was sick. They heard that he was sick, so they were coming together to go and invade. So all Danes, all these different people, they came together and they said they were going to make one army, one people, to invade Wexes. And even though they were coming together and they had a common enemy, and it was his blood that chose to kill him, and they were fighting amongst themselves and they were killing one another. So, but when they joined forces together, they win, and when they don't, they are easy to conquer. And I'm bringing that back to reality. I'm bringing it into what is actual reality, and our history is the history of colonization in Africa. But I'm going to talk about Nigeria specifically. Amongst ourselves, people would look in from the outside and think we are one people, Nigerians. But amongst ourselves, we divide ourselves. We know our differences, right? There was this scene in The Last Kingdom when um Utrecht's son-in-law, after they had already invaded Wessex and won, and he was king of wherever he finally lived with his wife, and that Edward's father-in-law orchestrated some attacks and planned a war, and they worked. When that guy took his army into the tent, into the camp of that Edward's father-in-law, during that fight, he had joined there. He was killing English soldiers, right? And they were Danes and they were killing English soldiers. And then Edward came with his own army and joined in. I was like, oh, the English soldiers that Edward's father-in-law had taken by himself to be there, and I'm joined by Edward's English soldiers who wants to stop them. How do they know which one is which one? Because they're all dressed the same. They're all white people anyway. Also, when Breda, another example of what I'm trying to say, excuse me, when Breda took her vengeance to Utrecht's daughter's kingdom, where this guy that I just spoke about was king and Utrecht's daughter was the queen, and Breda took her army of Danes into that place, and the people, her Utrecht's daughter and her husband, they are Danes, they are a kingdom, and the people around there, were Danes as well, and we're fighting wars. I'm like, how do they know which one is which one? Because they are the same people in general, and the war was between themselves. How do they know, like, who the enemy is in this case? And that is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Nigeria. An outsider looking in calls us Nigerians. White people from the West or wherever looking into Africa calls us black people, calls us Africans. But we know we have all these differences. We have all these different countries, all these different, like, we are different people. And when it comes down to Nigeria, we're further, I don't know whether to use the word divided or separated. There are all these different things that human beings find to divide and separate themselves. Now, because we are divided, because we have all these differences and everybody is on their own, when someone attacks one of these people in Nigeria, it's obviously not my problem. I mean, it's not so obvious, but to us it's obvious. We say these people are Igbo people, these people are Hausa people, these people are Yoruba people, these people are all the other tribes in Nigeria, right? And so, if whatever big force, huge force is coming in, is attacking the Hausa people, because we have our differences, because we do not like each other anyway, we are happy about it. We are happy they're suffering. And I'm not going to make this particularly about Trump and Muslims in Nigeria. I'm not going to do that. Anyway, you say it's not your problem, but I'm like, all of you to this outsider that is coming in is the same. How do they even know like the difference, who they are attacking and who the person that doesn't care is? And then when it comes down to you, when they find a reason to attack you, how do you call any of these other people for help? But beyond that, I'm going to not talk about the present and talk about our past. The invasion of Africa, the colonization of Nigeria. Sorry, I want to be specific about Nigeria. In the 1800s and early 1900s, which is like 200 years ago, 100 years ago, Britain invaded Nigeria. You know, the place that is now, they were the one that came up with the name Nigeria eventually, afterwards. But when they invaded, they fought. There is an Ijabo war, a war they fought with Ijabo people, invaded those people, conquered those people. Obviously, every other people around didn't think it was their business, so it was easy for them to win that war. And they fought a different war with the Emirates. You know what? I'm going to put up a picture of these wars. They fought these wars at different times with these different people, and everybody else around didn't think it was their problem. But as you would see in the picture, it will be a screenshot from Wikipedia or from Google. As you would see, even though that one wasn't your problem, your own came, you know. And so, because these people were not united, which I would say, I understand maybe at that time they had no reason to be united. They were different people at that time. They were just like different people living in different kingdoms and different communities until, the invasion and the conquering of these people and colonization of these people, and then amalgamation of different people to create one Nigeria. I would understand the reason why they conquered us, in small numbers, each at a time, because we were not one then. But in this repetition of history in our present, I would not understand it, because now we have a reason to join forces as one against a common enemy. But I understand why that is not happening. It's because the common enemy, they have done this for thousands of years. Why people colonizing Africa has been as old and continuous as thousands of years. From the ancient Greek colonizing Egypt to Britain colonizing Africa, the rest of Africa, West Africa, the France colonizing the parts of Africa that they colonized, to Trump invading Africa. They have done it for thousands of years, continuously. People say, oh, it happened that time. Oh, it happened years ago. It happened centuries ago. but it's a continued thing that keeps happening. And so they know how to come. So they are not coming as an enemy of Nigeria. They are coming as an enemy of this part of Nigeria. So, and they are saying that he is in favor of the other parts of Nigeria. So you're not going to fight them together because you think they are there for you until they find a reason to come for you as well. And now you have to deal with it on your own because you said it was not your problem. And when it becomes your problem, the people that would have helped you are not there to help anyway because they have been destroyed. Nigerians think Trump wake up every day, every in the morning thinking about Christians in Nigeria. But Trump is also throwing bombs in Venezuela, another country that actually has oil. And for whatever other reason he's invading Venezuela, whatever other reason he's trying to um, crawl his tour into Nigeria. And he's involved in assisting Israel in their continuous occupation of Gaza. And the US is in Afghanistan. I don't know how long they've been there, for years. They are in Iraq, they are in Yemen, they were in Vietnam. They destroy these places. They say they're trying to help the people there. Or then tomorrow they say, oh, we thought people were suffering there, but after we were done cleaning everybody, we realized, oh, those people we went in because of, they were not actually suffering. Oh, well, sorry, bye. But it's always about overtaking people and taking what they have. And I know a lot of people have, problems grasping this because they say, but Africa is poor. But that's the portrayal of the show of Africa. So when you say, oh, he's coming here to take what we have, the people that have grown up and are in their 60s, they have given birth, and even their grandparents have lived with this sense and imagination and understanding that Africa is a poor place, not even realizing it's even a continent. And they have raised their children, who have raised the children that are in this generation, to think that of Africa. And now you're saying, oh, he's coming to, and they will be like, what do you have that Trump is coming to take? Even our own people, I'm talking about white people not understanding what Africa is or what we have. Even our own people don't understand it, right? And so they make this, they create this imagination of what we are on the media and in the curriculums, the way they set up our schools. And so these things happen under your nose and in front of your eyes, and you don't understand it. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of research and a lot of reading and a lot of time for me to have the information that I have, for me to have the knowledge that I have, and even more time and patience and calming of mood to make these videos, right? And I try, and my hope is for people to see it and be inspired to actually do their own research, to do their own. And but at the same time, I don't want to make my contents and my platform about how many people sees it, about how many attention it gets, because these are things that are more important and beyond um likes and comments. And even though I don't have an audience and I don't have likes and comments in the moment, I do these things anyway because I have this knowledge and I understand these things, and I want to connect to people, and I want to do this so that even if people don't see it today, even if no one sees this face and hears this voice and these words today, in 100 years' time, I want for my videos to be seen, to be recovered, whatever the situation at that time is, for people to say, she was ahead of her time, which by the way, I'm not. People are just behind time, you know? So I just want people to know better about the human race. I want people to know better, more specifically and more importantly, about Africa as a continent and about Africans more than I know. You know, I know most about Nigeria more than anything about Africa, but like I do understand Africa in a shared, you know, our shared suffering and torment of colonization and of enslavement and of exploitation by the West. And I just want people to wake up, you know? I just want people to wake up. And don't take my word for anything. Do your own fucking research. A genuine and honest research in your heart with open mindedness, not trying to find something to convince you of whatever you hold true. You know, open minded, genuine, honest research by your own self. That is all I ask.
What is it? Ships. I saw them first from the beach. What ships? Danes.
We were kings here once, boy. Our ancestors took this land, and it has been strengthened with our blood and bone. Now you are the new heir of Bebbanburg, and you will die for it if needed.
Yes, father.
What kind of hell is this? If my brother falls in battle, the boy must fall. Lift up your sword and spare these men of England who fight in our name. Do not forsake us. Do not forsake England. You can forget all about your English life. We like you, boy. You're a son to me now.
One day, it is my hope that all kingdoms will become one, united under one God.
One king.
Yes, the idea of a single kingdom called England has to begin here.
I will not stand by and have everything that's mine taken from me. I'm going back to the beginning.
I am Uhtred of Bebbanburg, and I shall take what is mine. Bebbanburg!